Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy, channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis updated commodities. We're going to work our way through the taller yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinions as we go, and if you need any help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I dive deeper into these sectors, into these companies, look for potential investment opportunities. So let's dive in there. Let's take a look and see what's going on with the markets today. Looking at the DXY, we have continued weakness in the DXY, and that does look like continue lower. Started here, this was a inverted flag pattern, and it is working its way on down with the momentum to the downside. You have support underneath us at about 103-ish area. This is being driven by the 2-year yield and weakness in yields. Dollar and yields most of the time move together. We are seeing an acceleration of yields selling off. That indicates that Fed will most likely cut rates. People are front running. The commercial banking system is front running the Fed. People are running into the 2-year bonds, increasing the pricing of bonds and declining yields. We're seeing that also on the 10-year. It's starting to break its trend line here, and we could see a further move to the downside in yields on the 10-year. Then the 30-year is also selling off today, down about 0.57. That this is going to be a little bit more stable on the long end. So we'll see the short end drop a little bit more than the long end, and that's the uninversion of the yield curve. DYX TNX ratio, it's moving up a little bit. That's generally a tailwind behind precious metals. Not every single day, but a lot of the time when this moves on up, gold goes up with it. They move together. Bond prices are up a little bit. We are starting to break through this resistance line to the upside, and we could start to move to the upside with a little bit more oomph to it. We're breaking through some resistance. It looks good to move on higher, and this is people running into bonds. So there is a slowdown in the market potentially coming, and that's what people are seeing. That's what people are positioned for. 2 and 10, it is uninverting. We are coming on down. This is a continuation pattern. And that looks like we could uninvert further. We've got gold down about 5.5%, but it looks good and is well poised to go higher. It's a bloody nose, what I call that pattern. And we've broken out of all this, the upside. So it looks really good, and we're just in a flagging pattern. Consolidating is what I call it. Silver down a little bit, but again, that's a bloody nose on a weekly candlestick. Still in a bullish formation, move on higher, and we've broken all the resistances, big resistances previously, all through here. Platinum's still underneath this resistance line. They're still stuck just a little bit underneath it, and we are still trying to break out for that. We've got palladium here. Palladium is doing a retest. We are basically probably completing that retest, and hopefully we can get start to move our way on up. We've got GDX slightly higher, even though gold was down today. So that's looking pretty good. And that looks like we could continue higher. Looks fantastic. Same with GDXJ. Just underneath, or we're on top of resistance right now, just a small down day. And SILJ. Small down day, but working our way on up. Looks good. XAU to gold ratio, we had gold down and gold miners up. You're at a very low level. It is very cheap, and I think this will continue on higher to the upside with that yield curve coming on down and the uninversion of that yield curve. That's what is forming my opinion of what I think the gold and silver mining companies against gold are potentially doing. It wants to show back up here. Moving on to crude oil. So crude oil down 0.44%. We are right above support, but we are getting a little bit of a potential selling candlestick. We'll see if the support holds or if we're going to go lower. The uninversion of the yield curve generally spurs a little bit of fear with a market slowdown potentially. And that's why the Federal Reserve is cutting rates. So we could come on back to this potential area in these 60s is a possibility if it decides to do that. If the slowdown is already priced in the market and we are coming out of the slowdown, which don't get me wrong, the Federal Reserve's been playing with interest rates all over the place, then we would break higher if that's the case. So we'll see which direction. TTF gas up a little bit today, but the momentum is still to the downside. We still have a lot of support underneath us, but momentum's down and support's down here at 27. We've got natural gas in America. It looks like it's trying to turn. Momentum's down. You can throw a trend line on there, which is still above us. That's looking like it's trying to turn, but the momentum's to the downside. We've got a bullish piercing and a potential double bottom, and we'll see if it holds or not. Boy, XOP, yeah, you know me. We are up today. We're right at that neckline of the inverted head and shoulders. It still looks good, and it still looks like it wants to go higher. We're above the pattern. It's broken out. We're up against resistance of the neckline. We'll see if we break here. We need oil to get activated here. OIH Energy Services still looks good. We've broken the downtrend line to the upside, and some people, I guess, would say, well, it's over here, but we're above that still. And we'll see if we can get oil to get moving, which will move these guys. Newcastle Coal Futures looks good. We're above support. There's a support line that we've broken. We've got this other pattern that we're trying to break out of that looks pretty good for a move higher or sideways at worst. We've got Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. We are up right here. And we'll see where this goes, guys. We got the un-inversion of the yield curve. Sometimes that weighs to the downside on a lot of these things. So right now, it's a pretty ugly looking chart. Difficult to read in the short term. We've got URA, not much selling pressure here. So that still looks good to work its way on up. So again, that looks good. We're above support. Everything looks okay. That also extends to URNM and URNJ. The URNJ's got a little bit more selling pressure there. We've got support right underneath us. We'll see if it holds. We've got copper. Copper's up 1.66%, which isn't very bearish from a recession standpoint. And it does look like we are in a flag pattern, which could work its way on up. There's also supply problems with copper. COPX also moving on higher, stair-stepping higher. Or continuation flag patterns for COPX. We've got iron ore up 1%. That looks pretty good to work its way on up. We are at a lower area for iron ore in this big megaphone pattern. We've got aluminum also a little bit higher today, but the momentum is still to the downside currently. We could see a little bit more downside pressure on aluminum. Nickel's down. I know there's some surpluses there, what I was reading, so this could still continue lower. You've got Moo, which looks like it's putting a weekly stand here. This is a bullish engulfing. Looks great to go on higher, right at support. That looks fantastic from that perspective. And we are moving on up, so we can still bounce a little bit and try to work our way on up for the VanEck agribusiness. Yeah, looks pretty good. Emerging markets moving up a little bit. That is what we would expect with lower yields, lower dollar. Higher emerging markets. And that's going to extend to anything that's interest rate sensitive. So emerging markets are interest rate sensitive. The regional banking system, if that continues with lower rates, lower dollar. Same with TAN, that's gone up. They're all the same. TAN, lithium's very similar, and rare earth metals. They're all trying to work its way on up with that tailwind of weakening dollar, weakening interest rate. Baltic Dry Index, slightly higher. We are right at support. Right there with a bunch of support underneath us, and that does look like we could move on higher. We got XHB also higher. Looks like we got a little bit of selling pressure there. We could do maybe a potential return move back to this breakout. Come on back in the short term and hit that trend line again. We've got the Russell 2000. It's up against resistance. Resistance is that guy there, and we'll see if we can break through. We do have a selling pressure there. That's what the on that wick. We've got S&P 500 and NASDAQ higher today. But we do have a bearish engulfing yesterday. So that's still in play for a potential move lower in both of those. This is just an inverted bloody nose where the NASDAQ could fall, could fall. And that's the uninversion of the yield curve is people worrying about weakness in the economy, weakness where they're going to cut rates and they see something that may be bad. SMCI, this is the super microcomputers. It's still above the breakout, still has support, still looks pretty good to work its way on up. We have NVIDIA, two big bearish engulfing candlesticks. That does look like it could be potentially bearish, and we'll see if there's follow through to the downside. Bitcoin down a little bit, and I can't tell you if this is a continuation pattern or basing pattern. We've got a bullish engulfing here, a flag pattern, but we entered this from the top side down, so it very well could break to the downside, or maybe the buyers can push it on up. So we'll see which direction that breaks here for Bitcoin. Ethereum still has a bearish setup. We've got a move lower. The bounce is kind of up like this, and it does look like it could go lower. So NASDAQ, Ethereum, and potentially Bitcoin could head lower, depending on what the markets do here. And I know people say, they want like more confidence, like this will go lower. That's not going to matter if I'm confident or not confident. It's going to do what it's going to do. Statistical speaking, this is where it's going to go lower, is what I see. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you guys like. We still have that May Day coupon code, MAYDAY, one word. We've got a Sunday question and answer session coming at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Want to ask questions, bring it there. Probably do a little lead in with a real estate cycle, kind of where I think we're at and why I think we're there. And I'll answer whatever questions, other questions that we have, you guys have. I know some people sent me some questions. I'll go over those. But that's all I've got for today, guys. So we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.